I never thought I'd be typing this out at 2 in the morning, sitting in my home office with a glass of whiskey that's doing absolutely nothing to calm my nerves, but here we are. My hands are shaking so badly, I keep having to delete and retype words. I need to get this out somewhere because I feel like I'm losing my mind, and my best friend told me that Reddit might actually have some decent advice buried under all the chaos. So here goes nothing. My wife dropped a bomb on me 3 days ago that has completely shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. We were sitting at the dinner table, just finished eating the lasagna I'd spent 2 hours making from scratch because I actually enjoy cooking and wanted to do something nice for my family. Our daughter Emma, who's 7 years old and the absolute light of my life, was upstairs taking a bath. My wife Jessica was scrolling through her phone with that distant look she gets sometimes, the one I'd stupidly convinced myself was just her being tired from work. Then completely out of nowhere, she looked up at me and said, "I need to talk to you about Christmas plans." I remember feeling relieved, actually relieved, because I thought we were finally going to discuss something normal. Maybe she wanted to visit her parents, or she'd found a good deal on a trip somewhere. I was so incredibly wrong. She set her phone down, and I noticed her hands were trembling slightly. "Emma and I are going to spend Christmas with David," she said, referring to her ex-husband, the man she divorced 8 years ago, 2 years before we even met. I laughed at first because I genuinely thought she was joking. Jessica has never had a good relationship with David. In all our years together, she's barely mentioned him except to occasionally complain about how he was always late with child support or forgot Emma's birthday. But she wasn't laughing. Her face was completely serious, almost defiant. "I'm not joking, Marcus. We're spending Christmas with him. Emma needs a real father figure in her life, and David wants to step up now. He's changed, and I think it's important that she gets to know him properly." I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, trying to process what I was hearing. "Wait, hold on," I said, setting the fork down carefully because my hands had started shaking. "Emma has a father figure. She has me. I've been in her life since she was 2 years old. I'm the one who taught her to ride a bike, who sits with her during thunderstorms because she's scared, who helps her with her homework every single night. What are you talking about?" Jessica's expression turned cold in a way I'd never seen before. "You're not her real father, Marcus. You're her stepfather. There's a difference, and I think Emma is old enough now to understand that difference and to have a relationship with her actual dad." Those words hit me like a physical blow. I adopted Emma 2 years ago. We went through the whole legal process. David signed away his rights without any contest, and Emma was so excited about it. She made me a card that said "Best real dad ever" that I still keep in my wallet. She calls me Dad, not Marcus, not stepdad, just Dad. And now Jessica was sitting here telling me I wasn't her real father. "I adopted her," I said, my voice coming out much quieter than I intended. "Legally, I am her father. And more importantly, I've been her father in every way that actually matters for 5 years. Where is this coming from? What happened?" She stood up from the table, started clearing dishes even though I hadn't finished eating. "David reached out a few months ago. He's been going to therapy, working on himself. He's got a good job now, bought a house. He wants to be part of Emma's life, and I think he deserves that chance. I've been taking Emma to see him on some of your work Saturdays." My heart stopped. "You've what? You've been taking our daughter to see him without telling me. For how long?" 3 months, she said, not even looking at me. "And she loves him, Marcus. She's been having such a great time with him. He takes her to do fun things, treats her like a princess. She deserves to have that relationship with her biological father." I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. 3 months. You've been lying to me for 3 months, taking my daughter to see her deadbeat father behind my back. What the hell, Jessica?" "He's not a deadbeat anymore," she snapped, finally looking at me with actual anger in her eyes. "People change. People grow. Maybe if you were less focused on being the perfect little homemaker and more focused on being an actual man, I wouldn't have felt the need to reconnect Emma with someone who can show her what a real man looks like." I actually staggered backward like she'd slapped me. "What did you just say?" She crossed her arms and I could see something ugly in her expression, something I'd never noticed before. "You heard me. You're always cooking, cleaning, doing the gentle, sensitive guy routine. Emma needs to see what actual masculinity looks like, and so do I, honestly. David has reminded me of what I've been missing." My mind was racing, trying to catch up with what was happening. "Are you having an affair? Is that what this is really about?" "It's not an affair," she said, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "David and I have been talking, reconnecting. Nothing physical has happened, but I won't lie and say the feelings aren't there. He's changed so much, become the man I always wanted him to be. And seeing him with Emma, seeing how happy she is with her real dad, it's made me realize what I've been settling for." Settling for? Those words kept echoing in my head. I've been with this woman for 6 years, married for 4. I've built my entire life around her and Emma. I switched to a job with better hours so I could be home more for Emma. I turned down a promotion that would have required travel because I didn't want to miss her school events. I've loved that little girl with everything in me, treated her like my own flesh and blood, and now I'm being told I was just someone they were settling for. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of this kitchen right now before I say something I'll regret. I need to think. Jessica actually rolled her eyes at me. You're being dramatic. We're just spending Christmas with him. It's a few days. You've been taking my daughter to see her ex-father behind my back for 3 months. You're having an emotional affair with your ex-husband. You just told me you're settling for me, and you think I'm being dramatic about you wanting to spend Christmas, the most important family holiday, with him instead of me. Are you completely out of your mind? Emma's not your daughter, she shouted, and I heard the bathroom upstairs go quiet. Emma had probably gotten out and was listening. You need to accept that. She's David's daughter, and she deserves to have him in her life. I walked out of the kitchen before I could respond, went straight upstairs to check on Emma. She was standing in the hallway in her pajamas, her hair still damp, and the look on her face broke my heart. Daddy, she said in a small voice, why is Mommy yelling? I knelt down and pulled her into a hug. It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy and I just had a disagreement. Everything's going to be fine. Are you and Mommy getting divorced? She asked, and I could feel her tears soaking into my shoulder. I don't know, baby, I honestly don't know, but no matter what happens, I love you so much, and that's never going to change, okay? She nodded against my shoulder, and I carried her to her room, read her 3 stories instead of the usual one, and stayed with her until she fell asleep. When I came back downstairs, Jessica was on the phone in the living room, laughing at something. I heard her say, I know, I can't wait either. It's going to be perfect. I spent that night in my office trying to figure out what to do. By morning, I'd made some decisions. I called my lawyer first thing and explained the situation. He told me that since I'd legally adopted Emma, I had full parental rights regardless of what Jessica said, and that the secret visits could actually work in my favor if things went to court. He advised me to document everything, which is partly why I'm writing this all out. Then I did something I probably should have done months ago. I started really looking at our finances, our communications, everything, and that's when the real nightmare began. Jessica had been pulling money out of our joint savings account, small amounts at first, but they'd been getting bigger. In 3 months, she withdrawn nearly $15,000. I found receipts in her car for a hotel 2 towns over, multiple visits. I found text messages on our phone records between her and a number that, when I looked it up, belonged to David. But the worst part, the thing that made me physically sick, was when I logged into her email account. We'd always had an open device policy, no secrets, no locked phones. Her password was the same one she'd always used. And there, in an email chain between her and David, was the whole sordid truth. They'd been planning this for months. David hadn't just randomly decided to step up as a father. Jessica had reached out to him, initiated everything. And it wasn't about Emma at all, not really. The emails made that crystal clear. I made a mistake marrying Marcus, one email read. He's a good guy, but he's not you. He's too soft, too gentle. I need someone with your strength, your passion. And Emma deserves to have you as her father, not some replacement who thinks cooking dinner makes him a man. David's responses were even worse. I never should have let you go. We were young and stupid, but we're different now. Better. And Emma is my blood, my daughter. I want my family back. We'll make that loser stepfather understand that he never really belonged. There were plans, detailed plans, about how they'd transition Emma away from me, how they'd make her understand that David was her real father and I was just someone her mother had married, how they'd eventually push for modifying the custody arrangement to cut me out entirely. One email from 3 weeks ago made me actually vomit. Jessica had written, Marcus is so clueless. He actually thinks he's Emma's real dad. It's almost sad how attached he is to her, but she's been asking about you more and more, wondering why her real daddy wasn't around before. I told her you had to work very hard to become the kind of daddy she deserved, but now you're ready. She's so excited about Christmas. By the time we're done, she won't even miss Marcus. I sat in front of that computer screen for hours, reading years of my life reframed as a joke, a placeholder, a mistake. Every memory I cherished, every moment I thought we were building a family, it was all based on a lie. When Jessica came home from work that evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table with printed copies of everything. Bank statements, emails, text records, all of it. She walked in, saw the papers, and her face went white. What are you doing going through my private emails? Private, I said, and I was surprised at how calm my voice sounded. We agreed to no privacy between us, remember. That was your rule. You said couples shouldn't have secrets. You had no rights. Sit down, Jessica. Something in my tone must have gotten through to her because she actually sat. I slid the emails across to her. I want you to read these, out loud. I want you to hear yourself say these things. Marcus, I can explain. Read them. She didn't, she just stared at the papers, her hands shaking. It's not what it looks like. I laughed and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. Really, because it looks like you've been having an affair with your ex-husband, embezzling money from our joint account, poisoning my daughter against me, and planning to destroy my relationship with Emma. So please tell me what it actually is, because I'd love to hear the explanation that makes this okay. David and I reconnected, yes, she said slowly, and maybe we've crossed some emotional lines, but Emma is his daughter, Marcus. Biologically, she's his, and he wants to be a real father to her now. Can't you understand that? Can't you be a big enough person to step aside and let her have her real family? I am her real family, I said, and my voice cracked. I've been her real family for 5 years. I'm the one who holds her when she has nightmares. I'm the one who knows she likes her sandwiches cut diagonally, not straight across. I know that she's terrified of bees but loves spiders. I know that she wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. I know her, Jessica. I'm her father in every way that counts. Biology counts, Jessica said coldly. And you're not her biological father. You're a man I married, a man who's been useful, but you're not her real dad. David is, and I'm not going to keep my daughter away from her real father just to protect your feelings. The courts might disagree with you on that, I said quietly. I legally adopted Emma. I have full parental rights, and you've been violating the custody agreement by taking her to see David without my consent. Her eyes widened. You wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Fight for my daughter. You're damn right I will. I've already spoken to a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm filing for full custody of Emma. She stood up so fast the chair fell over. You can't take my daughter from me. Our daughter, I corrected, and you're the one who decided to blow up this family. You're the one who's been lying and cheating and stealing. You really think a judge is going to look favorably on that? I'm her mother. And I'm her father, legally. No matter what you or David think, I'm her father. And I'm not going to let you erase me from her life because you're having some midlife crisis and pining for your ex. Jessica's face contorted with rage. You're pathetic, you know that. A real man wouldn't be so threatened by Emma having a relationship with her biological father. A real man would be secure enough in himself to step aside. But you're not a real man, Marcus. You're a weak, insecure child playing house. Get out, I said. This is my house, too. And this is me telling you that if you don't leave right now, I'm going to call the police and show them the evidence of you stealing $15,000 from our joint account. I'm pretty sure that counts as theft, so you can leave voluntarily and we can handle this through lawyers, or I can have you arrested. Your choice. She grabbed her purse and her phone, and for a moment I thought she was going to say something else, but she just stormed out. I heard her car peel out of the driveway, and then the house was quiet except for the sound of my own breathing. Emma came downstairs a few minutes later. Where's Mommy going? I pulled her onto my lap, trying to figure out how to explain this to a 7-year-old. Mommy and I are having some grown-up problems right now. She's going to stay somewhere else for a little while. Is it my fault? She asked in a tiny voice. No, baby, no. None of this is your fault. This is about grown-up stuff that has nothing to do with you. I need to ask you something, though, and I need you to be honest with me, okay? She nodded. Mommy's been taking you to see a man named David. Can you tell me about that? Her little face scrunched up. Mommy said he's my real daddy, but you're my daddy. What else did Mommy say? She said that David is my daddy because he made me, but you're just Mommy's husband. She said that David loves me and wants to be my real daddy now, but I don't understand. You're already my daddy. We did the adoption thing and everything. My heart was breaking into a million pieces. You are absolutely right. I am your daddy. I adopted you, which means I'm your dad in every way forever and always. Nothing is going to change that. But Mommy said we're spending Christmas with David instead of you. I don't want to do that. I want Christmas with you, Daddy, like we always do. Tell me about David, I said gently. What's he like? She shrugged. He's okay, I guess. He buys me stuff and takes me to do fun things, but he doesn't know me like you do. He called me Emily once and he didn't know that I don't like chocolate ice cream, and he talks on his phone a lot when we're supposed to be playing. Mommy kept telling me to give him a chance, that he's my real daddy and I should love him. How does that make you feel? Confused, she said honestly. I already have a daddy. I don't need another one, and I don't want to spend Christmas without you. You make the best cinnamon rolls on Christmas morning." I held her tight, fighting back tears. "I don't want to spend Christmas without you either. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen, okay?" Over the next few days, everything moved terrifyingly fast. Jessica was staying at that hotel, the one she'd apparently been meeting David at for months. My lawyer filed for an emergency custody hearing based on the evidence of her taking Emma to see David without my knowledge or consent, the financial irregularities, and the evidence of her affair. Jessica's lawyer fired back with a motion claiming I was being controlling and trying to alienate Emma from her biological father. They painted David as a reformed man who just wanted a relationship with his daughter, and painted me as a jealous stepfather who couldn't handle not being the center of attention. The hearing was set for 2 days before Christmas. I spent every moment I wasn't working or taking care of Emma gathering evidence, talking to my lawyer, and trying to keep things as normal as possible for Emma. I didn't badmouth Jessica to her, didn't try to turn her against her mother, even though part of me wanted to show Emma all those emails and say, "Look what your mother really thinks of us." But she was 7 years old. She didn't need to be in the middle of this ugliness. Jessica started calling, demanding to talk to Emma, demanding her parenting time. My lawyer advised me to allow supervised phone calls but not to let Jessica pick Emma up until after the hearing. Jessica was furious, accused me of kidnapping, of being abusive, of brainwashing Emma against her. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about worst-case scenarios. What if the judge sided with Jessica? What if they believed her narrative that I was just a controlling stepfather trying to keep a little girl from her biological father? What if I lost Emma? I got up at 3 in the morning and went to check on her, found her awake in her bed, tears on her face. "Hey, sweetheart, what's wrong?" "I heard you on the phone earlier," she whispered, "with that lawyer person. Are you and Mommy going to fight about me in court?" I sat on the edge of her bed, stroking her hair. "We're going to talk to a judge about what's best for you, yes, but I want you to know something. No matter what happens, no matter what anyone says, I love you more than anything in the world. You are my daughter, and nothing will ever change that." Mommy said if I really loved her, I'd want to spend Christmas with David. She said you're being mean by not letting me go. My hands clenched into fists. Jessica was putting this on Emma, making her feel guilty. That's not fair of Mommy to say that. This isn't about whether you love her or not. This is about grown-up decisions that grown-ups need to make. You don't have to choose between people who love you. "Do you think Mommy still loves me?" she asked, and the question gutted me. Of course she does. Mommy is just confused right now about some things, but she loves you very much. "Do you think she still loves you?" I couldn't answer that. I honestly didn't know. The woman in those emails, the woman who called me pathetic and talked about me like I was an obstacle to be removed, she didn't sound like someone who loved me, but I didn't say any of that to Emma. "Sometimes grown-ups fall out of love," I said carefully, "and that's sad, but it's not anybody's fault. The important thing is that no matter what happens between Mommy and me, we both love you." She hugged me tight. "I don't want to spend Christmas without you, Daddy. Please don't let them make me." "I'm going to do everything I can," I promised. The courthouse the next morning was cold and intimidating. Emma was in school, staying with my parents who'd driven down the moment I told them what was happening. They were furious with Jessica, had actually called her and given her a piece of their mind, which my mother later admitted probably wasn't helpful but made her feel better. Jessica showed up with David, and I got my first look at my replacement. He was tall, muscular, had that kind of polished look that comes from money and gym memberships. He looked at me with open contempt, and I realized this wasn't just about Emma for him. This was about winning, about taking back what he considered his. The hearing was brutal. Jessica's lawyer painted her as a devoted mother who was just trying to facilitate a relationship between Emma and her biological father. They made David sound like a saint who'd overcome his demons and was ready to be a father. They made me sound like a controlling, jealous man who was trying to replace Emma's real father and couldn't handle the competition. My lawyer countered with the emails, the financial records, the evidence of the affair. He brought up the fact that David had voluntarily terminated his parental rights 2 years ago, that I had legally adopted Emma, that Jessica had violated our custody agreement by taking Emma to see David without my knowledge or consent. Then they called Emma's school counselor to testify. I hadn't even known Jessica had been taking Emma to see the school counselor, but apparently she'd set up appointments over the past month. The counselor testified that Emma had been showing signs of stress and confusion, that she'd expressed feeling caught between two fathers, that Jessica had indicated she was concerned about my possessive behavior regarding Emma. I felt like I was in a nightmare. Everything was being twisted, reframed, turned into something it wasn't. Then it was my turn to testify. Jessica's lawyer came at me hard, trying to make me sound unhinged, obsessive. Isn't it true, Mr. Harrison, that you've been restricting Emma's access to her biological father? No, until 3 days ago, I had no idea Emma was having any contact with her biological father. My wife was taking her to see him in secret. You say secret. Isn't it possible that your wife was simply fostering a relationship and planned to tell you when the time was right? I don't think there's ever a right time to keep secrets about where your child is and who they're with. And the emails between my wife and David make it clear this wasn't about fostering a gentle relationship. This was about replacing me. You feel threatened by David. I feel betrayed by my wife. I feel angry that plans were being made to cut me out of my daughter's life. I feel hurt that a man who abandoned Emma when she was an infant and voluntarily gave up his parental rights now wants to waltz back in and play dad. So you admit you don't want Emma to have a relationship with her biological father. I want Emma to be protected from people who see her as a pawn in some game. If David genuinely wanted to be part of her life, he could have reached out properly, through lawyers, worked out a gradual introduction. Instead, he and my wife carried on an affair and used my daughter as a cover for their meetings. Jessica's lawyer smiled like I'd said exactly what he wanted. So you do believe your wife is having an affair? The emails make that clear. But you have no proof of any physical relationship, correct? Just emails that could be interpreted as two old friends reconnecting and discussing their daughter's well-being. Those emails talk about me in incredibly derogatory terms. They outline plans to phase me out of Emma's life. They reference feelings between my wife and David. If that's not an affair, emotional or otherwise, I don't know what is. It went on like that for an hour. By the time I stepped down, I felt wrung out and exhausted. Then they called Jessica. She cried on the stand, talked about how she'd only ever wanted what was best for Emma, how she'd made mistakes but they came from a place of love. She admitted to the emails but claimed they were taken out of context, that she was just venting frustrations and never meant any of it. Marcus is a good stepfather, she said, and the way she emphasized stepfather made my teeth clench. But Emma deserves to know her real father. David has changed so much, worked so hard to become the man and father he should have been all along. I thought if I could facilitate a relationship between them before bringing it to Marcus, he'd be more accepting. I was wrong to keep it from him, I admit that, but my motivations were pure. I just want my daughter to have both her fathers in her life. And the money you withdrew from your joint account. I was helping David get on his feet. He's been paying child support for years, and he needed some help with the down payment on his house. I planned to tell Marcus, but the timing never seemed right. It was wrong of me, and I'll pay back every penny. And your relationship with David? We're friends, we share a daughter. We talk about Emma, about parenting, about making sure she has what she needs. If some of our conversations crossed emotional lines, I apologize, but there's been nothing physical. I'm still committed to my marriage, if Marcus can find it in his heart to forgive me. I almost laughed out loud at that. She was committed to our marriage, after everything. The judge asked some questions, reviewed the evidence, and then said she'd issue a ruling the following day. We were supposed to just go home and wait while she decided the fate of my family. That night was one of the longest of my life. Emma asked me how it went, and I told her the truth. I didn't know. My parents stayed for dinner, and we tried to make things normal for Emma, but I could see she knew something was very wrong. Jessica called that night late. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. We need to talk, she said. Through lawyers. Marcus, please just listen. I'm willing to compromise. Compromise? I laughed bitterly. Like you compromised when you were screwing around with David behind my back. I never slept with him, she insisted. The emails were just fantasy, just stupid venting. I never actually did anything physical. That's supposed to make this better. I'm trying to save our family here, she said, and she actually sounded sincere. I made mistakes, huge mistakes, but I don't want to lose you or put Emma through a divorce. If you can forgive me, we can work through this. What about Christmas? What about your plans with David? There was a long pause. I'll cancel them. We can have Christmas as a family, just the three of us, and we can work out something with David for after the holidays, something we both agree on. Supervised visits maybe, until everyone's comfortable. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe that this could all be fixed, that we could go back to how things were, but those emails kept playing through my mind, the contempt in her voice when she talked about me, the plans to phase me out. I don't trust you, I said finally. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Then we'll go to counseling, we'll do whatever it takes. Please, Marcus, I know I screwed up, but I love you, and Emma needs both of us. I need to think, I said. The judge is ruling tomorrow. Let's see what happens, and then we can talk. I hung up before she could respond. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, we were back in court. The judge looked tired, like she'd spent as sleepless a night as I had reviewing all this mess. I've reviewed all the evidence and testimony, she said. This is a complicated situation with no perfect solutions. However, I have to make my decision based on what's in the best interest of the child. My heart was hammering so hard I could barely hear her. Mr. Harrison legally adopted Emma 2 years ago. Regardless of biology, he is her legal father with full parental rights. Mrs. Harrison violated their custody agreement by taking Emma to see David without Mr. Harrison's knowledge or consent. The financial irregularities and evidence of an emotional affair, while troubling, don't necessarily indicate that Mrs. Harrison is an unfit mother. My heart sank. She was going to rule for Jessica. However, the judge continued, I am deeply concerned about the attempts to manipulate Emma's understanding of her family structure and the plans outlined in the emails to phase Mr. Harrison out of her life. Emma has a legal father who by all accounts has been devoted and present. Introducing biological father into the situation without proper counseling and agreement from both legal parents was irresponsible and potentially harmful to the child. Therefore, my ruling is as follows. Joint custody will continue between Mr. and Mrs. Harrison. However, any and all contact between Emma and David must be agreed upon by both parents in advance and must be supervised until such time as family counseling has been completed and both parents agree to modify this arrangement. Mrs. Harrison is to have no unsupervised contact with David until the divorce proceedings are finalized or the marriage is otherwise resolved. The $15,000 withdrawn from the joint account is to be repaid by Mrs. Harrison within 60 days, and I'm ordering family counseling for all parties. Jessica looked devastated. David, who was sitting in the gallery, actually stood up like he was going to object, but his lawyer pulled him back down. As for Christmas, the judge said, looking directly at Emma, who'd been brought in for the final ruling, I think Emma should spend Christmas with both her parents. Together, work it out, because this isn't about what the adults want. This is about what's best for this little girl. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down, and I felt like I could breathe for the first time in days. Jessica tried to talk to me after, but I couldn't deal with her right then. I took Emma home, called my parents to tell them the news, and tried to process what had just happened. I'd won sort of. Emma was safe, David was being kept at arm's length, and Jessica had been put in her place. But my marriage was destroyed, my trust was shattered, and Christmas, which should have been a joyful family time, was now going to be this awkward, tense obligation. That evening, Jessica came home. We'd agreed, through lawyers, that she could move back into the house temporarily for Emma's sake, but we'd be sleeping in separate rooms and maintaining separate lives until we figured out if the marriage was salvageable. Thank you, she said quietly when she arrived, for not fighting the judge on me moving back in. This is for Emma, I said flatly, not for you. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I know, Marcus, I am so sorry for all of it. I don't know what I was thinking. It was like I got caught up in this fantasy of what life could have been if David and I had made it work, and I lost sight of the actual good life I had right in front of me. You called me pathetic, I said. You said I wasn't a real man. You planned to erase me from my daughter's life. You don't come back from that with a simple apology. I know, she whispered. I know, but I want to try. If you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life making this up to you and Emma. Over the next few days leading up to Christmas, we existed in this weird limbo. Jessica was trying, I had to give her that. She was respectful of my space, didn't push for affection or intimacy, focused on taking care of Emma and trying to repair the damage she'd done. Emma was confused by the whole situation, kept asking when things were going to go back to normal. I didn't have an answer for her. David tried to call Jessica several times. I know because our phone records were being monitored as part of the custody agreement. She didn't answer, and eventually sent him a text saying they couldn't have contact until things were resolved. He responded with a string of angry messages calling her weak and calling me various unpleasant names. Jessica showed me the messages without me even asking, which I suppose was progress. Christmas Eve arrived, and the house felt nothing like it usually did for the holidays. Normally, we'd be baking cookies, watching Christmas movies, reading Twas the Night Before Christmas before Emma went to bed. Instead, we went through the motions like actors in a play, everyone performing their role but nobody really feeling it. After Emma went to bed, Jessica and I sat in the living room. The Christmas tree lights the only illumination, and had the first real conversation we'd had since everything exploded. "I need to understand," I said. "I need to understand how we got here, because I thought we were happy. I thought we had a good life." Jessica was quiet for a long time. "We did," she said finally. "We do. Marcus, you've been an amazing husband and father. This isn't about you being inadequate. This is about me and my issues." "What issues? Where did this come from?" She twisted her hands together. "Do you remember about 6 months ago, when I went to my high school reunion?" I nodded. She'd gone back to her hometown for the weekend. David was there. We started talking, and it brought up all these old feelings. Not love exactly, but nostalgia, I guess. We were so young when we got together, when we had Emma, and we failed so spectacularly. I've spent years telling myself I was better off without him, that he was a mistake. "He was a mistake," I interjected. "He abandoned you and Emma." "I know, but seeing him there, successful and put together, apologizing for how things ended, it messed with my head. He told me he'd spent years regretting how he'd treated us, that he'd gotten therapy, changed his life. And stupidly, I believed him, or I wanted to believe him." "So you started an affair?" "I started talking to him," she corrected. "It was just emails at first, catching up, then phone calls. Then he said he wanted to meet Emma, and I don't know what I thought, that maybe Emma deserved to have her biological father in her life, that I could fix the past. It spiraled so fast, Marcus. Suddenly we were meeting in person, and he was saying all these things about us getting back together, being a family again, and I got caught up in it." "You got caught up in planning to destroy my relationship with my daughter." She flinched. "Those emails. I was playing into his fantasy. He'd say things about you, about how you weren't Emma's real father, and instead of defending you, I'd agree. I don't know why. It was like I was a different person when I was talking to him." "That's not an excuse." "I know it's not. There is no excuse. I betrayed you in the worst way possible. I let someone trash talk the man who's been nothing but good to me and our daughter. I made plans that would have devastated both of you, and I don't know if you can ever forgive me for that." "I don't know either," I admitted. "Every time I look at you, I see those emails. I hear you calling me pathetic. I think about you taking Emma to see him behind my back, probably laughing with him about what an idiot I was." "We never did that," she said quickly. "I swear, Marcus, when I was with Emma and David, we focused on Emma. He was actually good with her, or at least he seemed to be. I convinced myself I was doing the right thing." "What changed?" I asked. "Why did you suddenly want to spend Christmas with him? That's what triggered all of this." She looked ashamed. "He pushed for it, said that if I was serious about us being a family again, I needed to show Emma where her loyalties should be. That Christmas with him would make it clear to everyone that he was her real father." And I agreed. I actually thought it was a good idea. I thought if Emma spent Christmas with her real family, it would somehow validate all the choices I'd been making. "Jesus Christ, Jessica." I know how insane that sounds. The moment I said it to you, the moment I saw your face, I knew I'd made a huge mistake. But I was too proud and too far in to back down. So I doubled down, said terrible things, tried to make you the bad guy so I didn't have to face what I'd done. We sat in silence for a while. The Christmas tree timer clicked off, plunging us into darkness. "I don't know if we can fix this," I said finally. "I don't know if I want to fix this." "I understand," she said softly. "Whatever you decide, I'll accept it. But I want you to know that I'm done with David, completely done. I've blocked his number, his email, everything. And I'm going to go to therapy to figure out why I sabotaged the best thing in my life. Whether we stay together or not, I need to understand what's broken in me that let this happen." "That's a start," I acknowledged. "But Jessica, even if we somehow work through the affair, the lies, all of it, I don't know if I can get past what you did to Emma. The way you manipulated her, confused her, tried to make her question our relationship. She's 7 years old. She didn't deserve any of this." "You're right, she didn't, and I will spend the rest of my life making it up to her if she'll let me." Jessica stood up. "I'm going to bed. Thank you for talking to me. And Marcus, whether you believe me or not, I do love you. I've loved you since the day we met. I just lost my way. But I want to find my way back if you'll give me the chance." She went upstairs, leaving me alone in the dark living room with my thoughts. Christmas morning came, and Emma bounded downstairs with the resilient joy of childhood, momentarily forgetting the tensions of the past week. We opened presents, I made my famous cinnamon rolls, and for a few hours, we almost felt like a normal family again. But there was a tension underneath everything, a sadness that I don't think Emma fully understood but definitely felt. After lunch, while Emma was playing with her new toys, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered, "Hello." "Is this Marcus?" A man's voice, angry. "Who is this?" "You know damn well who this is. You turned my daughter against me, you manipulated the courts, and now you're keeping me from my own child on Christmas. What kind of man does that?" David, he'd somehow gotten my cell number. "The kind of man who actually raised that little girl," I said coldly. "The kind who didn't abandon her when she was an infant. The kind who was there for every milestone you missed because you were too busy being a deadbeat." "I made mistakes," he snarled, "but I'm her father. You're just some guy who married her mother. You don't have any real claim to her." "I have a legal claim. I adopted her. She's my daughter in every way that matters." "Blood matters," he said, "and you and I both know Emma is going to figure out eventually that you're not her real dad. When she does, she's going to resent you for keeping me away from her." "She already knows I'm not her biological father," I said. "We've never hidden that from her. She knows her mom and I aren't her biological parents. And you know what? She doesn't care, because being a father isn't about biology. It's about showing up, being present, putting in the work, things you never did." "Jessica wanted me back," he said, changing tactics. "She was ready to leave you for me. The only reason she's playing nice now is because the judge forced her to, but she'll come back to me eventually. She knows what a real man is like now." "If you really think Jessica is going to leave me for you after everything that's happened, you're delusional. She's done with you. It's over. Move on." "This isn't over," he threatened. "I'm going to appeal the custody decision. I'm going to fight for my daughter, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows what kind of manipulative, controlling person you really are." "Do what you need to do," I said tiredly, "but leave my family alone." I hung up before he could respond and blocked the number. Jessica had come into the room while I was on the phone. "Was that David?" she asked. I nodded. "I'm so sorry. I don't know how he got your number. I'll call my lawyer. We can get a restraining order if he keeps harassing you." "It's fine. I blocked him." I looked at her. "He said you were going to leave me for him, that you were just playing nice because of the judge." "That's not true," she said firmly. "Marcus, I meant what I said last night. I'm done with him. Whatever fantasy I was living, it's over. I choose you. I choose our family, if you'll have me." I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. The rest of Christmas was quiet. We watched movies, ate dinner, put Emma to bed. It was nice almost, like a glimpse of what we used to have. But that underlying sadness was still there, the knowledge that things would never be quite the same. That night after Emma was asleep, I made a decision. I found Jessica in the kitchen, cleaning up. "I want to try," I said. She turned, eyes wide. "What?" "I want to try to fix this. Not for you, not for me, but for Emma. She deserves to have her family intact if possible. So I'm willing to go to counseling, to work on rebuilding trust, to see if we can salvage this marriage. But I need you to understand something." "Anything," she said quickly. "If you ever, and I mean ever, betray me or Emma like this again, I'm done. No second chances, no counseling, no working it out. I will file for divorce and I will fight for full custody with everything I have. This is your one chance to make this right. Don't waste it." Tears were streaming down her face. "I won't. I swear to you, Marcus, I will spend the rest of my life earning back your trust. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this chance." I didn't hug her, didn't offer any physical comfort. I just nodded and went upstairs. That was 3 months ago. We've been in counseling, both individually and as a couple. It's been hard, harder than I ever imagined. There are days I want to quit, days I look at Jessica and feel nothing but anger and betrayal. But there are also days where I see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, the partner I chose to build a life with. Emma is doing better. She's been seeing a child therapist who's helping her process everything. She hasn't asked about David in weeks. The court-ordered supervised visits never materialized because David apparently moved to another state after the custody hearing. Part of me wonders if he was ever really interested in being Emma's father, or if it was all just a game to him, a way to win against me. Jessica has been true to her word. She's in therapy twice a week, working on whatever issues led her to nearly destroy our family. She's been completely transparent with her phone, her email, her whereabouts. She's trying, really trying to make amends. Is it enough? I don't know yet. Some days I think we might actually make it through this. Other days I think I'm kidding myself, that the trust is too broken to ever repair. But I'm trying, for Emma's sake and maybe for my own too. Because despite everything, despite the betrayal and the lies and the pain, there's a part of me that still loves Jessica, that still wants to believe in the family we built together. My therapist says that's normal, that love doesn't just disappear even when someone hurts you deeply. She says I need to give myself time to heal, to process, to figure out what I really want, and that's what I'm doing. I still have those emails saved, backed up in 3 different places. My lawyer says to keep them just in case. Just in case Jessica backslides, just in case David comes back, just in case I need to protect myself and Emma. They're like a weight I carry around, a constant reminder of how bad things got. But I also have new memories now. Jessica and I on the couch, actually talking, really communicating for the first time in years maybe. Emma's laughter when we took her to the park last weekend, all 3 of us together. Small moments of normalcy breaking through the wreckage. Is it enough to rebuild on? I still don't know, but I'm giving it a chance. Because Emma deserves parents who fought for their family, because Jessica deserves a chance to prove she's changed, and because I deserve to know I did everything I could before walking away. People ask me sometimes how I can even look at Jessica after what she did, how I can sleep under the same roof, eat meals together, co-parent. And the truth is, it's not easy. There are nights I lie awake wondering if I'm being a fool, if I'm setting myself up for more heartbreak. There are moments when something will remind me of those emails and I'll feel physically sick. But there are also moments when Jessica looks at me with such genuine remorse and love that I think maybe, just maybe, we can find our way back to each other. Different than before, scarred and cautious, but maybe stronger for having survived this. The marriage counselor says we're making progress. She says that many couples don't survive infidelity, especially infidelity combined with such deep betrayal regarding a child. But she also says that couples who do survive it often end up with stronger marriages because they've had to completely break down and rebuild their relationship on a foundation of honest communication. I want to believe that. Some days I do believe it. Other days I think it's just nice words to keep us coming back for sessions. Emma asked me the other day if Mommy and I were going to stay married. I told her honestly that I didn't know, but that we were trying. She hugged me and said, "I hope you do, Daddy. I like our family." And that's what keeps me going, really. The hope that we can preserve Emma's family, give her the stable, loving home she deserves. Jessica's parents reached out a few weeks ago, apologizing for their daughter's behavior. They said they'd raised her better than that and they were ashamed of what she'd done. They offered to help in any way they could, even offered to pay for our counseling. I appreciated the gesture, though we didn't take them up on the money. My parents are less forgiving. My mother barely speaks to Jessica, and my father has made it clear he thinks I should divorce her, but they support my decision to try counseling, even if they don't agree with it. That's all I can ask for. Work has been a refuge. I can lose myself in projects and deadlines, and forget for a few hours about the mess my personal life became. My boss knows something's going on, and has been accommodating about me needing time off for counseling and court dates and everything else. I've lost weight not in a healthy way. Food doesn't taste like much anymore, and I forget to eat sometimes. My therapist is concerned about it, says it's a sign of depression. She might be right. Some mornings it's hard to find a reason to get out of bed. But then Emma will knock on my door asking for help with her homework or wanting to show me something, and I remember why I'm fighting so hard to hold things together. The hardest part, honestly, is navigating physical intimacy with Jessica. We're sleeping in the same house but different rooms. She's asked a few times if I want her to move to the guest room permanently or if we might try sharing a bed again. I'm not ready for that. The thought of being that vulnerable with her, that physically close, makes my skin crawl right now. The marriage counselor says that's normal, that physical intimacy often takes the longest to rebuild after betrayal. Jessica is patient with it, doesn't push, but I can see the hurt in her eyes when I flinch away from casual touches. Part of me feels guilty about that, and part of me thinks she deserves to feel a fraction of the pain she caused me. I've started journaling, writing out my thoughts and feelings. It helps sometimes. Getting it all out on paper makes it feel less overwhelming. I've filled 3 notebooks already with pages of anger, hurt, confusion, and occasionally hope. One thing that's come out of all this is that I've realized how much I'd let my entire identity become wrapped up in being Emma's dad and Jessica's husband. I didn't have much of a life outside of my family, so I've started trying to rebuild that. I've reconnected with old friends, started playing basketball again on weekends when Emma is at her grandparents', even joined a book club. Jessica encourages this, says she's glad I'm taking care of myself. Sometimes I wonder if she understands the irony of that, of her encouraging me to be more independent when her affair partner criticized me for not being man enough. But I don't bring it up. What's the point? Emma's birthday is coming up next month. She'll be 8. We're planning a party together, Jessica and I, trying to make it special for her. It's strange planning happy events while our relationship is still so fractured, but we're getting better at it, at compartmentalizing, at putting on united fronts for Emma. The judge ordered a follow-up hearing for 6 months after the initial ruling to check on how things are going. That's coming up in a few weeks. I'm nervous about it, worried that David might show up again, or that Jessica might have backslid. But my lawyer assures me that as long as we've been following the court's orders and Emma is doing well, there's nothing to worry about. I asked Emma recently if she ever thinks about David. She said sometimes, but not very much. She said he seemed nice, but that she already has a daddy and doesn't need another one. Those words meant more to me than I can express. After everything Jessica tried to do, all the poison she tried to plant about me not being Emma's real father, Emma still chose me, still sees me as her dad. That's what I hold on to on the hard days. Emma's love, uncomplicated and pure. She doesn't care about biology or legal documents. She cares that I'm there, that I show up, that I love her. And I do, more than anything in this world. As for Jessica and me, I honestly can't predict where we'll end up. Some days I think we're making real progress, rebuilding something real. Other days I think we're just going through the motions, delaying the inevitable. Time will tell, I suppose. What I do know is that I'm not the same person I was 3 months ago. I'm harder, more cautious, less trusting. I've learned that people can hide entire secret lives from you, that the person sleeping next to you can be planning your destruction. That love isn't always enough to protect you from betrayal. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought, that I can survive having my world shattered, that I can fight for what matters to me, that I'm a damn good father, regardless of biology, and nobody can take that away from me. So that's where I am right now, in limbo, in counseling, in pain, but also in fight mode, fighting for my daughter, for my family, and for myself. I don't know how this story ends yet, but I know I won't go down without giving it everything I have. If you've read this far, thanks for listening. Sometimes you just need to tell your story to people who will understand, who won't judge, who will just let you get it all out. That's what I needed tonight. Tomorrow I'll wake up and do it all over again. Keep trying, keep fighting, keep hoping that maybe, just maybe, we'll find our way through this darkness into something better. Or maybe we won't. Maybe in 6 months I'll be filing for divorce and fighting for custody. Maybe in a year I'll be a single dad trying to explain to Emma why her family fell apart. I don't know. Nobody knows. That's the terrifying part of all this, the not knowing. But it's also weirdly freeing. If I don't know how this ends, then there's still a chance for it to end well. And for now, that chance is enough to keep me going.